Hello, my name is Nave, and I'm just going to give you a quick tour of the notebook that I kept this year while I was working on my portfolio for IADT. I'm trying to keep this brief, so apologies. But the first few pages are really just warm-ups and portraits I did while I was trying to nail down the style that I was going to be using for the rest of this notebook. I experimented with different ways of shading, different styles, and I kept some personal inserts from my other notebooks that I felt were good enough to include in this that I did this year, like these paintings and drawings on the other page. See, another way that I also really love to warm up is by doing skeletons, like skeletal systems and exploring anatomy, because it gives me a better understanding of what I'm going to be drawing. The overall theme that I chose is feathers because I really love birds and I wanted to do a lot of work around that, which you'll see in the next few pages, because I started off by doing a lot of just regular observational pictures of birds and using photographs I took myself, trying to get as close to them as I could, which will come up later. Come up again later on. There's really just a lot of regular work here before I started to get more conceptual and explore crows and their place in like mythology, particularly their relation to one of the goddesses of nightmares in Irish mythology. So I tried to go with like the punk aesthetic that I usually do and explore like how that would look on clothing, which actually I do have on my jacket now because I ended up liking it so much. I did a lot of research on it, as you can see, because I really love Celtic mythology, and I do try to research as much as I can into the backgrounds of things I'm going to be working with. And this is like kind of where the whole costume design thing started, and character design as well. I made this shirt later on because I liked it. You're also going to notice that the way that I work is I try to get as many things down onto the page as I can in a particular layout that kind of helps me think. Using some of the photographs I'd managed to take at this point, I started exploring painting compositions. I didn't end up going with this one because I had a better alternative later on. You can see I was practicing my painting. You can see the influence of the Impressionists, particularly Edouard Manet, because I love his paintings. And I ended up really proud of how these turned out. And I tried to replicate that style, but maybe leaning a little bit more into Monet later on. I came back to skulls and decided I would do a finished drawing based on that because it's one of my strengths. And I did include some like mild religious imagery because I have a fascination with theology, and it's like a combination of anatomy and portraiture and these things that I love. I came back to mythology for a bit and I wanted to do that as a painting composition as well maybe, but I ended up thinking it was too focused on people and not enough on feathers, like the overall theme, which I tried to manage there. Then I thought about identity and how that can relate to birds based on my own relationship with them and closeness and like fascination, I guess, with them I have. Something that I ended up doing a lot of was like wings because it's another way to explore feathers. And I think that it's really interesting from like a character design and a costume design standpoint. So I tried to get the anatomy of wings down as best I could through a lot of my drawings, and practiced so much. And one of my best drawings is hands down this one. It took me like 3 hours to get all of these tiny little lines for the shading, but I was super proud of how it turned out and I decided to include it. Now, because I didn't want to use just like a lot of photos online, I ended up getting really into photography, and I actually tamed a bird for this project. His name is Bishop. He's a rook, not a crow. It's an important difference. And I've trained him to like turn and stuff when I feed him. And he sits on his little perch and he lets me get a lot of great pictures of him that I used for a lot of my work because it was such a big help. These two are some of my favorites. And then on taking my own photos, I decided to get really into film photography and to try and get some better photos because my phone wasn't really cutting it. So I fixed up my granddad's old Agfa camera, which is like a 35mm one from a few decades ago, and got some really nice shots. This one in particular I love because I was trying to experiment with how the camera can be used and how I can use it incorrectly to get really nice dreamlike quality in my shots. Then from one of the photos that I took, which I actually have framed oddly enough because I liked it so much, I tried to use that composition to make a drawing, but the tonal values on these were all off, but I decided I may as well like show where I went wrong. And then from some of the photos, I decided what if I went more abstract with my drawings or explored a different medium for them. So then I started thinking about tattoo designs and like the different styles that can come in, like cyber sigillism here and futurism. But me personally, I prefer the classical styles. So I did a few more drawings in like a little bit of a different way, trying to explore the different styles, I guess. I've already said that. And I came up with this one where I was kind of envisioning it stretching across a person's bicep, and I ended up just loving it. Honestly, I might get it myself. And then after kind of finishing up a tattoo, I went back onto identity and birds. You can see with like the beak stretching out of a person's face here, but I wasn't sure how exactly to meld those two things because it's surprisingly difficult to put together a person's face on birds. And there's more here on like the feeling of having clipped wings and all these different things that people might experience, myself included. And I included some more abstract shots I got of birds. Like I got a lot of them. There's a few bonded pairs around the area that I live. And this shot that I love in particular of these two up on a like lamppost or something, I didn't even realize I got it until after I'd gotten them developed. And then I thought of like how birds have this connection to each other, they mate for life, all these different things. And when I do work in color, I like to go monochromatic because I just find it interesting and how people can have like assigned colors almost. And tried to do a few drawings based on that. Came back to, okay, then what if we viewed crows as people and then do portraits of them based on like the kinds of ways that you would do people's. Then kind of combined anatomy and the whole identity thing of this feeling of birds or emotions almost being like birds or this external creature that's in you almost. And then after anatomy, I came like full circle and went to, okay, then character design, because anatomy is a really good way to explore how the body moves and how cloth like drapes across it. This is also just another one that I really love. You can see more of like the monochromatic work here because it gets me to explore tone more than color. And I feel like that challenge kind of makes it a bit more special, or it forces me to develop more skill. And here I'm starting to like focus more on clothes and the different like ways they fall. Because something I really love to do is I love designing based on different things and going more conceptual with it. I have another like whole notebook I did the other year of just taking random objects and making outfits based on them, and I loved it. And I have a lot of skill, I feel, in drawing people and clothes and all these different things and designing. So I tried to go more literal with feathers and then kind of explore how people would look based on birds. I went to the IADT open day and we made like paper corsets, and I used that for some of my designs here, like the paintings, and I did like 3 different versions that I felt I really liked. Then I explored like, oh yeah, what if I did like a collage style and I did the costumes, but then I tried to like insert the other thing into them using like copies and paste and all these different things. And what if I printed them? And what if I got feathers down onto fabric? So then I explored like using actual feathers to print on paper. And I ended up really liking how that looked, and I had like a fine art vibe to it, and then tried putting them down onto fabric because I used to have a pair of angel wings on the back of my jacket that I did using feathers, and decided to recreate that with a little bit more skill. So I've got it down on fabric here, experimented with how it would look on a page, and then I have the finished wings I ended up doing. So I was quite happy with those this time. Then I thought, okay, then well, feathers, I also need like so many feathers just to do like one wing. So what if I made a lino block that was far more reusable, and then I could use the lino block for other things as well. Like you'll see, I have a crochet tapestry I did for my portfolio that I made the pattern for using these linos. So I took the feather, then I made it into a lino block, then I turned the lino block onto a spreadsheet to make an actual crochet pattern. So I came back to like wings and how I could try making those wings again with the lino. And how, like when I make things, I like to go for a lot of the punk aesthetic and how that would fit in. And how I could insert like birds and feathers and all this different imagery into like punk styles. So like I tried doing some printing here to see how a patch that I could make would look. This is really just a lino that I wanted to do. I had like this really big lino block of a skeleton, or like a bird skeleton that I did. I didn't end up liking it, so I just used that idea for a drawing instead. And then this is like the final pages of, I went full circle again, back to like mythology and costume design, character design, and I really wanted to make like a full Lena out of cotton lawn, and I tried drafting the pattern for it and everything, but I didn't end up having the resources to do it, but I still thought it was interesting. So then I thought, oh, well, what if I went for like a more modern take on it with this page, which is the last one I did. And I'm currently working on this skirt at the moment. I've finished the top, and I wanted to try and experiment with like having wings attached to garments as well, because I know that you can do that with crochet. So I'd like to thank you for sitting through my sketchbook tour, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.